One of the first ones is more of a distinction, but it's an important one, and maybe it's a little bit of a history lesson. So you have the term broadcast and you have the term live streaming. The two are generally associated with the correct things, but kind of understanding what a broadcast is versus a live stream, I think is good to know. So a broadcast generally is kind of more like the old sense of the word in terms of tuning into a broadcast on the radio or analog TV, where basically everyone is watching the same feed. So if you were to actually turn it off, it gets cut off for everyone. So once it gets distributed, everyone is really watching that same signal that goes out. It might get rebroadcasted multiple times, but it's all the same exact original feed. With live streaming, it's different in that once it gets sent up to the actual origin server, it then gets kind of repackaged for every single person who watches it. So if you're watching it on a mobile device, if you're watching it on a set-top box, if you're watching it on your laptop, it's getting repackaged for each person, and that gives you the ability to pause it. If your bandwidth changes, it will kind of go down to a lower resolution. If you press the button and say, I want to watch it in full resolution, if I want to turn on closed captioning, those types of things, it's more tailored for you, and that's a live stream. Next up, we have webcast versus webinar. If you take the two ends of both of them, it's pretty easy to decipher what they are. So webcast, think like broadcast, it's very one way. So if you're a company and you want to basically put out a message to let your employees know some announcements, webcast. Webinar is more like a seminar where it's more interactive and there's more engagement. So think some of the Q&A that might come, some of the panel discussions, those types of things. That's your webinar. So that's webcast versus webinar. Next is a virtual event versus a hybrid event. A lot of people, I think, do understand this, but some people don't. So generally when we're talking to people about their events, we're asking them very quickly, is this a hybrid event? When we ask if it's hybrid, we're basically meaning, are we bringing in virtual callers, remote guests? So during the pandemic, we didn't have the ability to have physical events, so we had to have them completely virtual. So that's a virtual event in that every single guest is remote. Even the actual host a lot of times is also remote. So if the event has no physical presence, but it's only existing virtually, it's a virtual event. If it's a hybrid event, you might have a physical element to it. So it might have a physical host or it might have a physical event. But if you have some remote guests who are participating, we call it hybrid because it means that we need to spend some time making sure that we're onboarding these remote speakers, making sure that everything's working, because it is an extra element that you need to work out in terms of making sure that everything's perfect for both the physical audience to interact with those remote guests and that the remote guests are hearing the right things. They're only hearing what's happening at that physical venue. They're not hearing themselves, those types of looping issues that are very easy to come across. Next up, we have REMI, or remote broadcast, and cloud production. So these are a few other newer terms that are being thrown around. REMI, or remote production, basically just means that the actual production is being captured remotely. So you might have a truck set up somewhere, somewhere else in the world, but your event is happening, say, locally. So you might have, a concert happening in Europe somewhere, but the actual production is being done, say, in the US. So you'd say like your REMI facilities in New York, but your event is in London. So Streamworks is a live streaming and broadcast company that specializes in a lot of these terms that we talked about today. So anything from covering your basic live event to a hybrid event to a full cloud broadcast, we've got a lot of experience with. The pandemic really pushed us to spread our wings with cloud production, and we feel that we've gotten a really good grip of delivering high quality events in a much more affordable footprint that normally would be produced in a large truck or broadcast facility. So reach out to us with your questions. We're more than happy to kind of assist you with any of your marketing or media needs. And yeah, we'll see you out there.